No, I mean the Kings split the road trip at 3-3, which was great. Especially after going down 2-4, or sorry, not 2-4, but going down 1-3 in their first four on that six game after getting absolutely dominated by the Sixers, which was one of those games where it was like, all right, this game's getting turned off before the end. But yeah, so in the road trip with back to back wins, and then they go back home on 2 days rest, and then they lose to the 8-23 Charlotte Hornets in a game the other night that was just frustrating to watch, especially with Sabonis and Fox having huge games. The rest of the Kings not so much, but there we are, all caught up. John, I miss anything, or what are your thoughts on everything I just said in the recap?
Yeah, I think Mike Brown said it best when he said it was a reality check because you were just coming off of a great close to that road trip as you were laying out with two excellent wins. That win in Toronto was crazy, and then they took care of business in Detroit, and then they just came back home with everything on their side. Fox feeling the best he's felt in a month. Sabonis continuing to play not just like an all-star, but an elite center. And you're seeing guys like Harrison Barnes playing pretty decently. You're seeing guys like Keegan Murray starting to turn it on. Monk getting together since Fox returned. He was kind of like a little off. Him and the bench unit were off for about 3 games there or so. And over the last, 3 or 4, they really figured it out. And so on and so forth with the rest of the roster. Really, everything started to get going. And so to come home and slip on the banana peel, so to speak, was rough because I think one of the most important points about the next 18 games, but going into that Charlotte game, it was the next 19 games, that 15 of those 19 games are at home. And it's important to not only take advantage of any home game, but to rack up as many wins in this favorable stretch of time. Because you're going to need those as the competition in the West starts heating up, as things start going down to the wire. It's, as Jason Anderson pointed out, and I think a piece he did for the SAC B, it's just absolutely imperative for seeding in the playoffs and the Kings' chances to be more than a play-in team. And so it was severely disappointing to see them lose to Charlotte. And there's so many glaring negatives in that game. It was, despite, Fox and Sabonis playing so well, it was just ugly in so many other places. And you can only hope, and you almost expect them to at this point, to bounce back against the Lakers. But not off to the start that you want to get to with that 19-game stretch that we're talking about.
Yeah, and you needed to beat the Hornets last night or 2 nights ago. Something that's helped me cope with the loss is thinking about how the Kings maybe 5 years ago or at any point during the 16-year playoff drought, when they'd go in and beat a team that was much better than them, we're usually on that side, I guess, right? We're doing the upset, but now it kind of feels not nice, but it's like I can appreciate, I guess, being on the other side about being upset by a team, because the Kings are actually a team with playoff seeding right now. So, I mean, a loss is a loss, and it's frustrating, but I guess thinking about it that way for me helped me deal with it. But I agree, you can't blow chances like that against an 8-23 Hornets team. Should have won that game. Not a good way to kick off the that good homestand. They have 6 games in a row at home, and then, like you said, what was it, 15 out of their next 19 are at home. So you gotta capitalize on every game you can, and that was definitely a game they should have won. But man, I mean, there was just a lot of issues. I mean, free throw shooting was horrendous. Defensive rebounding, terrible. It seemed like Sabonis was the only one grabbing rebounds that game. But you got any more? You got any more insight for that game?
Oh, you hit it there, but I mean also the 72 paint points for Charlotte.
Yeah,
And I mean it's an interesting outlook that you mentioned. Like there might be a positive outlook in that, well, this underachieving team, I think it's fair to say, due to injuries and the fact that their stars haven't been on the floor a lot. Um, you know, it's a good sign for how the Kings stand in relation to the rest of the league that they came out and played one of their best games of the season. I mean, you look up and down the board for Charlotte, a lot of guys had really, really good games. And it it comes down to, though, I mean, like they scored 72 paint points, and Mike Brown said it after the game. They just the Kings let the Hornets get too comfortable from the beginning. The first 3 or 4 field goals for the Hornets were easy dunks or layups at the rim. And that was a constant theme all night. And they were just getting, out physicaled inside, seen in the rebounds. And they just were generally off in that defensively they had some miscues where, as again, Mike Brown pointed out, the low man didn't always step in at the right time or do so as bravely as he would like. And also the weak side defense wasn't as good. And there were some examples that I pointed out in the recap just off of a glance. And I'm sure that his film session was quite firm and had plenty more examples. But, that also led a huge part into the paint points. But again, that lack of being sharp was really laid out in the 54% from the free throw line, 17 of 31. Oof. You get to the line 31 times, which is terrific. And but you leave 14 points on the board.
Man,
come on.
That's how you lose. You lose by 6 points, and you leave 14 at the line. It's embarrassing. It's awful.
And Mike Brown was like, because I think James Ham asked him about the free throws. He's like, this is another game that you lost because you missed free throws. And Mike Brown kind of got a little cute or specific and was like, well, no, we would have stolen the game maybe if we made those free throws, because he was pointing out that the defense was the main reason that they lost, which is fair. But still, you lose by 6 and you leave 14 at the line. I mean, like, what are you doing? You lost. You could have won that game. Like, you lost because you didn't make free throws. That is totally fair to say. And that was like that Clippers game, and even like that New York Knicks game a week or so ago. And I said last week, I said, I don't want to be overreacting here, but you don't want to see this. And they kind of cleaned it up for the rest of the road trip. Didn't become an issue, but then they come back home and it's part of that issue. And again, I don't know. I kind of almost attribute it to they were just generally off all the way around, aside from their 2 best players.
Yeah, I always hate watching the Kings lose when Sabonis and Fox have good games. And it's nice to see Fox kind of get back into his usual form after having, I think it felt like a 10 game or so stretch where he just looked subpar. And yeah, he had that foot injury, but he said he was like dealing with it since November. And he looked, he looked good in times at that, like between November 5th and now, or, when that report came out where he was still playing well. So it was kind of weird that he went on such a bad stretch, but it's nice for him to get back to his usual self, and he's scoring buckets really well. He's attacking the basket, which I think is huge, something he wasn't doing during that little slump. And Sabonis has just been, that dude's an all-star. It's not even a question anymore. He's an all-star, leading the league in rebounds, leading the league in double-doubles. He has 3, I think, 20 and 5 games this year already. It's crazy. Dude's a monster. And it just sucks watching Fox score 37, watching Sabonis throw up another 20-25 game, and then no one else steps up. So it's just like a wasted opportunity on top of playing the Hornets, right?